You're tuned in to The Andrew Lawton Show.
I wanted to share this interview I was going to last week, and then everything got kind of sidelined when the federal court decision came in that found the Emergencies Act to be unconstitutional. And it is a bit of a holdover, a leftover, I should say, from my time in Davos covering the World Economic Forum annual meeting, which I believe we are going to go back and do the next one of. So I've had some people asking already. I think we're still trying to figure out the accommodation situation, which, as you know, is always the most annoying part of that process. But I think we can make it work without having to do some like cross-country commute every day that will, have us in the cars on the mountain roads. But anyway, I've complained about the commute too much already. I wanted to go back to the basics here, go back to first principles and talk about the why. And why we started covering the World Economic Forum in 2022, why we went back in 2023, and again this year, and are likely doing so next year as well. And it's simply put because no one else is doing it well. And I know there's a bit of arrogance inherent in that, to say, oh, well, we're doing something that no one else in the world is able to do. I would say it's that no one else in the world is willing to do. There have been considerably few players that have decided to go up and, talk to the global elites, to put a microphone in the face of the Queen of the Netherlands or the CFO of Google or Mark Carney or whatever, and ask these questions that matter to people but often are never asked because no one who's ever in the room with them wants to ask because they want to just keep getting invited back into the room. So there's something rather blissful in not being in the room in the first place because you don't have anything to protect. You have nothing to lose except your integrity, which is only going to be lost if you don't go and do the work that people around the world, I think, need you to do. So that's a bit of a wind-up to why we went there, and we have been joined by some other independent journalists. There was a lovely Japanese YouTuber last year, Masaka Ganaha, that I met and actually appeared on her show talking about Davos, and also Rebel News has sent, I think, increasingly large crews every year. So I caught up with Avi Yemini and Ezra Levant on the streets of Davos to talk about why it is they're there as well. Take a look. Well, as I've been saying throughout all of my content this week, you never know who you are going to run into on the streets of Davos. I've spent a great deal of time chasing after some of the big elites, people from all walks of life here, including Steve Sedgwick from CNBC, although he's been friendly to us riffraff out here on the streets. But look at Rebel chumming around with the mainstream media there. Well, two of the guys that we've been in some foot races. Two of the guys that we have been in foot races with, chasing after some of these figures, are right here with me. Avi Yemini from Rebel News and the Rebel commander himself, Ezra Levant. Avi and I, you and I were here in 2022 working for different outlets, but we had kind of a good camaraderie going on here. What's your read on kind of the experience then versus 2 years later?
I reckon it's a lot busier. I don't know if there's more VIPs, but there's definitely a lot more people, and that you can see that on the street as well as in the car parks, for example. You just can't get parking. So that's the main difference. The focus is pretty similar. Maybe not on the signs. You see the AI is really dominating the discussion on, I guess, the featuring on all the signs, but the discussions are still climate change and sustainability is the buzzword in town, which always feels fun because it's a second word. It's a second sentence. It's a second word in every second sentence here when they just don't get the irony of it.
Do you think, Ezra, that the influence of the organization has gotten greater or lesser in the last couple of years? And do you feel the security they feel about their position has changed in that time?
Well, I think the best thing that ever happened to the folks who come here was COVID. Mm-hmm. It gave a huge boost to international companies, which are the bread and butter here. There's no small businesses here. This is transnational corporations. This is Amazon. Jeffrey Bezos' personal wealth doubled during the lockdowns because everyone was at home. We interacted with each other through tech. And there's a lot of tech here. There's a lot of pharma here. Now there's a lot of AI, which worries me because there's a lot of censorship here too. I mean, I can tell you Twitter is not here, but Meta and Google are. And so I would say that the WEF has been strengthened enormously in real measurable terms. Financially, they had enormous success in terms of political power. I mean, there's royalty here. There's prime ministers and presidents here. This year, President Zelensky of Ukraine, the Israeli president, the Argentine president. In terms of public perception, yes, there's been more criticism of the World Economic Forum too, but what do they care? Avi scrummed, and you were in that same scrum, what am I saying? The two of yous scrummed Dr. Tedros Adhanom, the head of the World Health Organization, really the globe's Anthony Fauci. And you guys landed a few punches on him verbally, but what does he care? He can't be fired. He can't be voted out. To you, it was like ants at a picnic. I mean, he looked down and you said, oh, ants. I mean, what does he care? Most of the people here are democratically immune. They're a permanent class of ruler. That's how it is.
We are back. Part of the fun of Davos is that you never know who you're going to run into, as I said at the top. And we took a moment because we thought, you guys saw someone that you wanted to do a bit of a reprise on. So you had to scurry away. But we're back. We're standing as close to original positions as possible. But we're honest media. We wanted to acknowledge the cut and not fool you by throwing some B-roll over it. Not that we've ever done that. So before we broke away, Avi, I was going to ask you about your sense here. Because one thing that I found a little bit interesting is that a lot of these folks are not used to being questioned here. But this year they seem to be a lot more skeptical. I'm seeing people hiding their name tags. I'm seeing people cross the street. I don't want to say it's because of you and I. I think we may be contributing, though. Do you agree?
I certainly am.
Yeah, you are. And it's funny because we have different styles, which is fun.
You're polite. I think if I wasn't here, you'd probably get away with it.
Yeah, because I think Tedros would have spoken to me, but then you go in there and go for the jugular right away, and he just shuts down. But that's part of it, and these people are not used to being surrounded by critical media, are they?
No, and you're right. I think there is I've seen even other people, and it should be mentioned, there's a lot of people that come in here that come up on the side and go, oh, amazing work, we love what you're doing, good on you. They're probably just opportunistic and using the event as a networking. But, people have seen us running up and down, scrumming political figures or business figures or any of these. So I think the word certainly got out there, and I think it also got out there in past years. Wasn't it last year when you actually got accredited? It had suddenly enlisted the second year to actually hide your identification when you came out here, and I think that was from our first year of being here, you and I.
Yeah, so Ezra, I'll ask you where you think the future of this is, because there are a lot of people that really I've not been able to get to answer the question that has really been burning on my mind, which is, what do you get out of it? I want to hear some of the business figures say what is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to be here, and I want to hear the politicians say what it is. Now, I have my own suspicions, but I've yet to get an answer from that. I suspect whatever they've gotten out of it in the past, they're still getting out of it, and in that sense, it'll probably continue all of this, won't it?
As you walk up and down the streets, you overhear a snippet of a conversation, just a second or two. Let me give you two snippets that I heard today, hand to God. We made $400 million off that. $300 million loan. Just little snippets. I don't know who they were, what they were talking about. That's what I overheard, and you probably heard similar things. Now, some of the talk is just puffery and BS and people trying to climb up the greasy pole. But there is no denying that the net worth and the amount of assets controlled by the people here is in the tens of trillions. BlackRock itself controls 10 trillion, just one company, that's Larry Fink. And like I say, there's presidents and there's royalty. So what do they get out of it? They have an elite gathering, much of it hidden. There's no transcript, there's no Hansard, as we call it. There's no question period, there's no official opposition. The media is tightly controlled. What do they get out of it? It's a private playground where they can frolic and do their dirty deals. In Canada, Chrystia Freeland came here, met with McKinsey, ta-da, they got a 9-figure contract from the Canadian government. That's what they do here. And so I think they would like to ban citizen journalists. Now, I don't know if Switzerland will go along with that. Let me give you a quick anecdote. I scrummed someone from the Rockefeller Foundation, which I think is a very legitimate thing. She's a public person who has been spending tens of millions of dollars in Canada to disrupt our oil and gas economy. So she ducked into a pavilion, and a security guard came out and said, "You, out! You, go, now, move!" Well, I know a little bit about the law in Switzerland, not a lot. And I said, "No." I said, "You go get the cop." And he walked over to the cop across the street. I could see them talking, and nothing. just because some security guard doesn't want me talking to a VVIP, the Swiss police couldn't give a damn. As long as, and I later walked over to the cop and said, hey, I just want to tell you my intentions. He said, as long as you don't touch people. Actually, he said it slightly differently. But I think that you might see the World Economic Forum try to keep citizen journalists out. I don't know how successful they'll be.
All right, well, I think we're going to continue covering it because no one else is, and clearly the audience loves it. I know that we are from different outlets, but I think the more independent journalists doing this, the better. So, Avi Yemini, Ezra Levant, thank you so much, and Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you.
That was Avi and Ezra on the streets of Davos. Well, it was also me on the streets of Davos. Now I'm on the streets of D.C. So another... Actually, there's a weird question. I wonder where the people, who you'd rather spend time with, the people of Davos or the people of D.C. I would say the people of D.C. because D.C. you can find some normal, real people here. Davos, there are very few of those. No, I shouldn't say none. I mean, the people that work in Davos are good, but they're not the ones who live in Davos, and they would never call themselves Davos people, like Christopher Freeland and Mark Carney and all of them will. But anyway, that is it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more of The Andrew Lawton Show and another update from the great climate free speech trial of the century here on True North. Thank you, God bless, and good day to you all.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.